It happened again. A thunderous crunch outside my front door shattered the morning calm. My heart seized as I dropped my coffee and bolted to the porch, already knowing what I'd find. There it was, my poor mailbox, smashed to splinters, and lying face down in a bed of crushed tulips. A trail of tire rubber sliced across my lawn like a scar. And barreling down the road, disappearing into the haze of dust, was the white Escalade Queen barge, as they called it, through the rear window. I glimpsed Nancy behind the wheel, her round face flushed red as she howled with laughter. Beside her, Barbara filmed it all on her phone. No shame whatsoever. That was the third time in 2 months. I knelt beside the wreckage, picked up the crushed metal that had once held my street number, and felt my stomach tighten. They hadn't even tried to pretend it was an accident. This was deliberate. The Karens Nancy and Barbara had declared war. And I'd been naive enough to think I could win it by staying polite. When they moved in 6 months ago, everything went downhill. Fast. Loud, entitled, always in matching floral sundresses they were impossible to ignore. They made up for what they lacked in mobility. Both were heavy-set, perpetually sweating and wheezing with sheer volume. You heard them before you saw them. A screeching chorus announcing their arrival. Their Escalade was their pride and joy, lifted and gleaming, a shrine to bad taste and bad judgment. They named it the Queen Barge and treated it like a wrecking ball. My mailbox was its favorite victim. It started with a little accident, a bump that cracked the post. I repaired it without complaint. Everyone gets one mistake, I told myself. But the second time, they didn't even try to slow down. They drove straight through it and disappeared. When I caught Barbara outside later and asked if she planned to pay for the damage, she sipped her diet soda and laughed in my face. "Maybe don't put it so close to the road," she sneered. "That's where mailboxes go," I replied, barely keeping my voice steady. "If it wasn't so ugly, maybe I'd see it," she chirped, flipping her hair. "They didn't just target my property. They parked across driveways, blocked garbage pickups, and blasted music on their porch until 2 in the morning. When anyone dared confront them, they played dumb or got nastier. They even called the HOA on my elderly neighbor, claiming he threatened them because he asked them to turn down their speakers. But the mailbox, that was personal. After the second hit, I went to the HOA. They nodded sympathetically and said they'd look into it. Nothing happened. I filed a police report, but the officer told me unless I could prove it was intentional, it was a civil matter. So I installed a motion-activated camera with a wide-angle lens. It wasn't cheap, but I was determined. 2 weeks later, at 7:13. It happened again. I watched live on my phone as Nancy lined up the SUV halfway up the street. She gunned the engine like she was playing demolition derby, bounced off the curb, and rammed the mailbox dead center. Splinters flew. Barbara's iced coffee tumbled into her lap as she howled with glee. They didn't even slow down. I saved the footage and marched it to the HOA. They told me again, "We prefer neighbors handle these matters themselves." I called the police. "Could be an accident," the dispatcher droned. "An accident caught on video." With them laughing like lunatics. The next day, I confronted them as they unloaded grocery bags stuffed with frozen dinners. "You want to explain this?" I held out a frame from the video. Nancy didn't even glance at it. "Photoshop," she said. "It's a video," I replied. "Deep fake," Barbara chimed in. "Not even looking up. You're targeting my property," I said, my voice low. Nancy stepped forward until I could smell the peanut butter crackers on her breath. "You put it too close to the street. You're begging for someone to hit it. It's exactly where the city installed it." "Then the city's stupid," Barbara snapped. That night, I sat in my garage, staring at the wreckage. I wasn't angry anymore, just exhausted. Tired of patching up the same damage while they mocked me. I opened my laptop and typed 3 words. Indestructible mailbox plans. I discovered an entire subculture, rural folks who built mailboxes that could survive anything short of a tank. Steel posts, concrete cores, armor plating. Some mounted theirs in boulders. One photo showed a mailbox that had punched a perfect V into the front of a pickup. That was the spark. I needed. No more playing. Nice. If they wanted war, I'd give them war. 2 days later I started building. I cleared the garage and pulled on gloves. I wasn't just making a mailbox, I was making a monument. I started with a 4-inch steel pipe, 6 feet long. 3 of those feet would be buried in a block of concrete. I filled the post with rebar and sand, then welded it shut. The box itself looked ordinary black aluminum with a shiny chrome flag, but beneath the surface, it was bolted to a steel plate, a 1/2 inch thick. At midnight, I dug the hole and poured the concrete by moonlight. My arms were shaking with exhaustion, but when I finished, I stood there grinning. By morning, it was done. Nancy and Barbara noticed immediately. They emerged in matching daisy dresses, squinting across the street like vultures spotting roadkill. He put up another one, Barbara muttered. Nancy smirked. Ugly as sin. Think it'll last a week? Try an hour, Barbara said, jingling her keys. But they didn't strike that day. Or the next. A week passed. Then 2. Then came the morning. I'll never forget. At 6:42 a.m. I was pouring water into my kettle when I heard it, the Queen barge roaring to life. I sprinted to the window. Nancy was hunched over the wheel, hair wild, eyes locked on my mailbox. Barbara held up her phone, filming. The SUV lurched forward, gaining speed. It hit with a deafening clang, followed by the sound of metal folding in. On itself, the Escalade didn't bounce, it stopped dead, the front bumper crumpling like paper. A tire exploded. Steam hissed from the radiator. The Queen barge was dead, and my mailbox didn't have a scratch. I stepped outside. Recording. Nancy staggered out, clutching her wrist. Her daisy dress was torn, stained with something brown. Barbara limped after her, phone still recording like she was the victim. You, Nancy shrieked. You sabotaged us. I raised an eyebrow. You mean I put a mailbox on my own property? It's made of metal. Barbara screamed. It's legal, I replied calmly. Want to see the permits? Within 10 minutes, Officer Ramirez arrived, the same officer who told me it was a civil issue. He took one look at the totaled SUV, then the intact mailbox. Same mailbox? He asked. New one, I said, reinforced. Nancy pointed. At the wreck. Arrest him. For what? Ramirez asked. For building a weapon. Ramirez barely held back a smile. Ma'am, it's a mailbox. I sent the footage to their insurance. Their claim was denied intentional collision. They were liable for repairs. $7,000 in damages when Barbara posted an edited video online blaming me. My uncut version went viral. 500,000 views overnight. Memes poured in. Curran twins versus mailbox boss. Their SUV was eventually towed away. Defeated. But they didn't stop. Next came the trash, empty cans, chip bags, smashed jars of pickles. Barbecue sauce slathered over my mailbox. I cleaned it silently, knowing I had them on camera. I uploaded the footage. Karen's sisters strike again. The Sauce Chronicles. It trended immediately. The neighborhood chose sides. Most sided with me. Even Miss Fleming, the elderly gardener, muttered, "Menace in polyester," as she walked by their house, when they filed complaints with the HOA, accusing me of harassment and creating a hostile environment. I arrived with a stack of evidence and witness statements. The board ruled against them. $500 weekly fines for continued harassment. Escalating legal action if it didn't stop. Nancy screamed. Barbara cried. Neighbors stepped forward, stories of bribes, threats, petty vandalism. The twins were exposed. Code enforcement fined them for the abandoned mattress, illegal fire pit, weeds waist high. Even their GoFundMe asking for $10,000 flopped. Netting only $12 half in sarcastic donations. Nancy's job found the video. She was suspended indefinitely. Barbara spent her afternoons pacing the porch, occasionally hurling insults or stale pastries my way. And me? I finally had peaced out one morning. I walked out to find silence. No music, no shouting, no threats. Just birdsong in the breeze. I touched my mailbox cold, unbothered, unbreakable. And across the street, Barbara watched me, eyes calculating, because people like them never really quit. They retreat, they regroup. They wait. But so do I. And the next time they come for my mailbox, I'll be ready.